Most of the time I spend when I get up in the morning is trying to figure out what is going to happen, the late former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright said. And I agree that that's how I spend a lot of my time as well, trying to figure out what's going to happen. And here's the thing, I thought that fits so well with sort of the topic of discussion today, because figuring out what is going to happen is what you are doing when you try to come up with that smart vision for your retirement. You sort of figure out what you want your retirement to look like, right? And I like to think about retirement planning as sort of like your financial GPS, right? Or your retirement GPS. Um, what's the first thing? So you, let's say you're going to go somewhere you've never been before, physically. You're going to hop in the car, right? And the first thing you do if you've never been there, probably, is you put the destination in your GPS so that you can get there. And then comes the route and the adjustments that can be made along the way because of traffic conditions and things like that. But first, the very first thing you got to do is know where you're going. And so that is the point of today's show, is getting you to a place where you know where you are going. And I want to, first of all, take a second to encourage you that if you don't know where you're going, and if you maybe want some inspiration for where you can go, keep listening to the show, of course, today. But you can also go to takeprideinretirement.com. It's takeprideinretirement.com, and get all of the past episodes there, all of the past episodes of the show, and get some inspiration for maybe what the possibilities are for your retirement years. Takeprideinretirement.com. Everybody has dreams and aspirations and ambitions and all of that. And a lot of it that has to do with retirement and retirement planning. So what do you want that retirement to look like? It's a very personal thing, because some people, let's say, haven't gotten the opportunity to travel much because, say a lot of the LGBTQ plus community spends a lot of time caregiving, providing care for family members, friends. And that's just the way, because, fewer of us tend to have children. That's just, statistically speaking, fewer of us tend to have children. So we find ourselves, instead of raising children a lot of the time, taking care of maybe older relatives. Or if we do have kids, doing it all, taking care of the older relatives and raising the kids at the same time. So if you find yourself in that category, maybe you haven't been able to travel a lot in your working years. Maybe you've had that full-time job where you work long hours. And then, when you get home, or when you get off of your job and go, to see that relative or that loved one that needs care, you're just exhausted and there's no time to go and enjoy and do anything, especially out of town or out of the country or anything. So maybe your retirement looks like one filled with a lot of travel, checking off those bucket list locations that you want to visit. Like myself, I've never been to France, at least not yet. And so I would love to do a lot more traveling in Europe. I think that would be amazing. We're actually going to go, my husband and I are going to go on a cruise to coincide with our anniversary this year, up to New England and into Canada, to a bunch of places that I've never been before. So we're checking those off of the list, which is a great, great thing. So that is one possibility for what your retirement might look like. But maybe you are someone who is part of the LGBTQ plus community, or not, whoever you might be, and you travel a lot for work. The fact that less, or I should say fewer, LGBTQ plus folks have kids can often lead to, work, whatever your job might be, taking advantage of that fact and sending you on trips all over the place. So maybe you've done a lot of traveling. Maybe it's been mostly for business, but you've done a lot of traveling and you want to take it easier in retirement. You want to sip a mint julep on the front porch under an old magnolia tree or something, whatever it is that you want to do, that is something that you're going to have to plan for, but you got to have that vision. So those are kind of, a couple of ends of the spectrum, right? Maybe you are a big movie buff and you want to take a trip to Hollywood, or you just want to see a movie or two or three every week. And so that's what you want to do. Like maybe you are a big theater buff and you want to go around and see all of the different theatrical productions that come to town, wherever you live, or go travel around maybe to some other kind of regional theaters in your area and see some of the shows. Those are all different possibilities in retirement, but you got to know what your particular vision is, right? What does retirement look like to you? So, in addition to what are you doing during retirement, who are you going to be with? Who are you taking care of? Just because you're retired doesn't necessarily mean that those caregiving duties that I spoke about are done. Maybe they're just getting started. Maybe you have a husband, wife, partner, whomever that needs care now that you are in retirement. Are you taking care of that person? What are your goals? I mean, how do you plan to fund your retirement that could last 30 plus years? You could be working just as long, if not even longer, or you could be retired rather, just as long, if not even longer than you were working. So your retirement career, so to speak, could be longer than your career, your job career. So if you don't start with a clear vision and a clear set of goals for retirement, you could experience a bunch of unknowns down the road. There's a recent survey that said 37% of Americans feel that they need more education on retirement planning. And more than half, 52% of Americans wish they had more education on how to invest. Those are things that I can help you with. As a financial advisor, as a fiduciary who has to work in your best interest, not my own, I can help you on both ends, on the investment side and accumulating funds for your retirement. And then in retirement, turning that into an income. I'm a certified annuity specialist. Just received that designation here not too long ago. And so it's paramount to me that you have an income in retirement that you cannot outlive. And I can show you how to do that. So here's the thing. If you don't know, you might say, oh, I like the sound of traveling a lot, but then I like the sound of sitting on the mint julep or sitting on the mint julep, Lord, sitting on the front porch, sipping the mint julep and all of that. Like I like both of those things. Sit down and have a discussion with your spouse, with your partner, with your family members. Consider some important factors that will affect your golden years. And this will help bring those retirement related goals into focus. So, number one is Social Security, because a lot of people just assume that Social Security is going to cover the bulk of their expenses or their financial needs in retirement, but that's just not the case. It's not realistic. Social Security is only going to cover realistically about a third of your expenses, kind of on average, right? And so while people make that assumption, they sort of commonly assume that they're stuck with a predetermined benefit as well. Did you know you can actually increase your payout by delaying when you take it? So you can increase that monthly income. And that could be something that's right for you. That's, maybe not. It could be something that is not right for you. You may want to start early. You may want to get that check starting at 62, which is the earliest you can start taking Social Security now. Or it may make sense to at least delay until your full retirement age, which is somewhere between the age of 66 and 67 for everybody listening to my voice right now. Depends on when you were born, right? Or you could delay all the way out as long as you can, out to age, say, 70, and get an 8% increase in that monthly benefit for each year that you wait. So that is one consideration to take into account as you're sort of building that vision for your retirement. Another common thing to think about that affects everybody and that a lot of people might, may or may not actually think about, but you need to think about is taxes. A common misconception is that your tax rate is going to dramatically decrease once you stop working. Well, you can't count on that. It may very well. If your income goes down because your expenses kind of go down, maybe some in retirement, then yeah, if your income falls below a certain level, you could drop a tax bracket and then your tax rate will decrease on the taxes that you do pay now. And so just to put this in kind of a matter of perspective, the rate that is now the 24% tax bracket, right? That tax rate for the current 24% bracket used to actually be 56%. It used to be the 56% tax bracket between 1960 and 63. So do you have a plan for tax rates changing during your retirement? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but we can actually make a plan so that no matter what happens on the tax side, you are taken care of, and you don't have to worry about that. You can get a lot of peace of mind through some plans that we can put in place. And on top of that, not only do you not have to worry about taxes going up or down or whatever sideways, you can keep more of your hard-earned and hard-saved money to begin with. Also think about Medicare. I mean, a lot of people make assumptions about what Medicare covers. Oh, I'm going to retire. I'm going to turn 65. I'm going to start taking Medicare, and it's going to cover all of my medical expenses, and I'm not going to have to worry about anything. Wouldn't that be great if that were the case? Some people, assume that long hospital stays are covered. A lot of hospital stays are covered, but only up to a certain point under Medicare. Regular doctor visits, all of that stuff kind of depends, right, on what plan you have elected. Long-term care, that's something that Medicare doesn't cover, especially traditional Medicare does not cover long-term care. I said, you can be covered for a stay in the hospital up to a certain point, but if you go beyond that point, say if you're in the hospital for a couple of months, or if you need long-term care for anything beyond, say, like 30 days or so, that's not going to be covered. And unless you have long-term care in your plan, some sort of plan for long-term care, whether it's a long-term care policy, whether it is something that is an addendum to another type of policy that you have that can increase the amount of income you get in retirement if you need long-term care. Any of those things, I mean, we can actually plan for that, because you need a plan for that because it's not covered by Medicare. So as you get older, it's likely you're going to have more healthcare needs, of course, than when you were younger. The body gets older, it breaks down, as I learn every single day when I, feel my knee pop and all of this, and I listen to my feet as I, crunching essentially as I walk across the floor. There is no long-term care. There is no add-on for Medicare that's like that. You can add on prescription drug coverage, sure, Medicare Part D, for example. You can get a Medicare Advantage plan, perhaps, if that's right for you, that would, cover all of these costs in retirement as well. Except, long-term care through traditional Medicare is not an option. It's just not. And so you want to have a plan for that. And one of the reasons that you want to have a plan for that and a plan for all of these things is because life expectancy is increasing. Life expectancy has more than doubled over the last 200 years in the United States. Many people, though, are not building their plans to last past age 90. But you have to, because you don't know how long you could very well live to be 100, 105, 110, heck, 120. The way things are going, yeah, even with the COVID pandemic, you could be destined to live much longer than expected. So you're going to want to have a financial plan in place that's going to last your entire life, no matter how long that life is. You got to sit down with an advisor, hopefully me, and cover the options. Consider everything. And it's as easy as pie to do it. All right. We can meet over Zoom. We can meet in person. If you're in the metro Atlanta area, I'd be happy to meet with you in my office in Midtown. All you have to do is go to the website, takeprideinretirement.com. TakePrideInRetirement.com. Click on the schedule a consultation button.